Good evening, folks. How are you doing today? Hope you're having a great time. We always wish that everybody has a great time every day, all day, 365 days of a year. You're welcome to another edition of Just Banter. And it's our pleasure to talk about the elections that are coming up in 2023. Election season is here in Nigeria, where everybody is now talking about one candidate or the other. And of course, naturally, there's always that large focus on the presidential elections. Very few people get to talk about the people who are representing them at the lower levels, the mid levels, and the other positions in the higher levels. So we're talking about councillors, mayors, because local government chairmen are supposed to be mayors, but for some strange reason, they have been disenfranchised in the political system, where some form of should I call it malpractice when it comes to governance, where it's a case of the state government apparatus takes over the powers of the local governments and they starve them of funds. Then also you now have, houses of assembly, you have the Federal House of Representatives, and then you have the Senate. Now, the Federal House of Representatives and the Senate are supposed to be the ultimate lawmakers in the country when it comes to legislation, governance. But for some strange reason, we hardly hear any positive thing coming out of either the National Assembly or the members of the National Assembly. There's always one controversy or the other. There are always issues around constituency, projects, around legislation, the amount of bills that the average, legislator passes, all those type of stuff. So tonight we're going to be talking to a very, very interesting fellow, a politician from Bauchi State, who also ran for seats of the Federal House of Representatives. His name is Mohammed Aliko Mohammed. Mohammed is going to be telling us a little bit about his experience, running for the seats of the Federal House of Representatives for his constituency. He's also going to be telling us a little bit about some of the things that we ordinarily do not know when it comes to elections and when it comes to how people interact with politicians, how they support their candidates, and probably they get to be the flag bearers of their parties and eventually win the elections. So we're going to be talking to Mohammed shortly after this quick commercial break. Thank you very much. Hello, Mohammed. How are you?
Very well, Habib. How are you?
I'm great. I hope you're enjoying the weather where you are, because I can see that you're wearing Babariga and all of that. That probably means that's nice.
Yes, it's a beautiful day, and I guess with my newfound occupation now, one has to dress in a certain way whenever you're going to be in public.
So you're talking about your newfound occupation in terms of you being a politician now.
Exactly.
Okay. So tell us, what were you doing before you became a politician?
Well, immediately, just my immediate past, do I say occupation, was as a consultant, a small business advisor. Myself and a partner set up a small business advisory firm to put small businesses through on,
Okay, there seems to be have been a slight glitch there. I think Mohammed's net.
Business formalization.
Okay, you're back.
Oh yeah. So
We lost you there
yes,
for a
I
few
am. Okay,
seconds.
beautiful. Okay, yes. Sorry. That I'm sure that will happen every now and then.
Oh, we
But this.
understand.
Okay, yeah, exactly. So you know where we come from. So
Oh, yeah.
basically, that was what I was into, small business advisory. Before that, I had a 20-year stint at the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Yeah, that was the bulk of my career.
Oh, wow. That was a long
Yes,
stint, 20
yes,
years.
yes, it was, and I would say that that's one of the biggest blessings I've had in life. Being in one institution for such a long time tends to mold you into a better person, and sets up your life in a particular way.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's great because for some strange reason, we have
Yeah.
realized that quite a lot of politicians actually did not have, long sustainable careers before they went into politics. A
No.
lot of them actually lacked experience, when it
Yes.
comes to handling or managing large groups of people. But they just, get an opportunity to go into politics and they grab it with both hands.
Hmm.
Now, of course, probably there's no practical experience when you look at it, on the surface. But when you dig, you go take a deep dive, you
Yes.
realize that a lot of people in most, sane countries, sane environments, go through a
Yes.
process. Either they work for, a top-ranking, politician, they
Hmm.
rise up slowly, and then they are now
Yes.
properly positioned because they have gathered some experience on how to handle the administrative side of things before they now actually go into the field to go and start
Yes.
contesting for positions.
Mm-hmm.
And for you to have been in a particular, environment for 20 years, an
Yeah.
establishment, at least that tells us that you do not have, what most of Nigerian politicians have, which is ADHD. A lot of them find it difficult to, to concentrate on anything for
Yes.
any
Other than
lengthy
politics.
period of time.
Mm.
So now you contested for a seat, to go to the House of Reps and all of that.
Mm. Yes.
Contested on the platform of the APC.
Yes, I did.
Okay, so we have had quite, a few politicians here on Just Banter,
Mm.
and
Yes.
heard quite a few things when it comes to internal democracy in these
Mm.
parties.
Yes.
Now, it is not just any party
Yes.
in particular that has these issues. It seems to be all the
Mm.
parties that have these issues. Somebody was talking just a few days ago. He made a comment and said the reason why Peter Obi was having issues in the Labour Party was because he was not in the Labour Party and did not contribute to the development of the Labour Party till he decided to run for president.
Mm.
So somebody went to court and said it was a lack of internal democracy that allowed Peter Obi to become the presidential candidate of the Labour Party. Now, did you go through any issues with this internal democracy?
Yes. Well, so let me start by saying that on paper, right? On paper, I think our political parties have a perfect setting for conducting primaries and internal democracy.
Yeah.
It differs, from what is actually on the ground. We had to go through a primary election that required 5 delegates from each of our 20 wards to participate in electing who will represent the party, at the general elections. Surprisingly, that was aired live on Facebook Live, and it was a near perfect system. Names were called, party membership was verified. Your being on the list of delegates was verified, and for those of them who could not write, they had an agent from one of the 4 aspirants, that would write. They would be asked who they were voting for, and when they indicate, they would give the agent the piece of paper or the ballots, and he writes it on that. and stuffed into a box. And at the end of the day, 100 votes were counted. The winner came off with 65.
Yeah.
The next person got 17. I got 13, and somebody else got 5. But so it was near perfect. But I think it's what happens, in the background before getting to the primaries venue is what needs to be corrected and what needs to be looked at. But other than that, on paper, it is a wonderful system.
Is that, are you talking inadvertently about the lobbying system where the candidates go and start lobbying the delegates and all of that? Isn't that part of the politicking in itself?
Yes, it is. So, in my own personal opinion, and without any prejudice to the party, I believe that the process, though perfect on paper, you know, from the very beginning, this is now from the point at which these delegates are selected,
Okay.
because on paper, there's a requirement that each interested person should buy a form, and ward congresses will take place whereby all party members within the ward will elect 5 people to become delegates. In most cases, that didn't happen. Maybe it was more of a selection. And
Okay.
gradually, of course, we aspirants had to go to each and every one of these delegates, and lobby them, sell our portfolio and all whatnot. The quality of delegates at the ward level leaves a lot to be desired. Maybe it's because I am coming from a system, that's outside the political system, and I'm expecting some level of perfection. I'm expecting some level of perfection, or functionality in it, but you know, there can be improvements. There can be improvements. I believe that this is the first time that we've always had delegates in the past,
Yeah.
but not in this fashion or in this manner. Before now, you had statutory delegates where existing elected members or past elected members of the party serve as delegates. So these are people that you'd obviously expect that have been in the field. They have
Yeah.
represented the party at different levels. Their understanding of what a candidate should be is better than the delegates that were just picked out of nowhere, or from the ward to now come and elect, who will be a flag bearer for the party. So it's a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
By using the ward delegates means that the common man has a direct, impact on who will represent them at various levels. That is a plus. But then the quality of these delegates and the process in which they become delegates, I believe, was not followed to the letter. So the quality is a bit shaky, or it's not up to scratch, in my own personal opinion.
So now I just picked up something that I was not aware of. So I'm sure that
Okay.
a lot of people are not aware of as well,
Yes.
which is the selection process for the
Okay.
delegates as
Yes.
opposed to an election of those
Yes.
delegates. Now,
Yes.
most of us have always been under the impression that delegates were selected, and we always
Mm.
wondered what was the criteria for the selection of these
Yes.
delegates because
Yes.
of how the delegates, or rather, because of the role that the delegates, you know, play
Play. Yes.
in the emergence
Yes.
of candidates for parties. We have always wondered about that because what we keep seeing over and over and over again, over the years, every election cycle, is some groups of people in
Of
different pockets,
the
that is,
candidates.
who seem to have become household names when it comes to politics. They seem
Yes.
to be the only ones running for political position,
Mm.
juxtapositioning, and always
Mm.
being able to cross carpets at a moment's notice, simply
Yeah.
because they have developed that brand, so to
Mm.
speak.
Mm. Yes.
So,
So
delegates,
yes.
what are supposed to be the criteria for the election of delegates? And
Okay.
then,
So
how do they pick them now? in
Okay,
terms of
so for
selections?
for my party, I don't know what is obtainable in other parties. There was a set of guidelines, and then that is in line with the new electoral law
Yeah.
that requires delegates. That's an indirect primary, whereby delegates, will elect candidates at various levels. The guideline specifies how these delegates and who these delegates should be. And I might not be getting it exactly as it is, but I can give you a rough idea. So for you to become a delegate, first and foremost, you should be a member of that political party.
Okay.
You should indicate interest in wanting to become a delegate by purchasing a form, to contest for during the ward congresses to be elected as a delegate. And regardless of how many people buy those forms, they will be. I think on the 12th and 13th of last month, there were ward congresses whereby these delegates were elected. Now, I did not participate in that process. I probably was not there. Maybe there was an election, maybe there was not, But in a case where, for example, only 5 people buy forms within a ward, then naturally means that only those 5 people will end up being the delegates, and that. So this is how you become. A delegate. You're a member of the party at the ward level. You purchase a form, and then you are elected at a congress. Now, after that congress is concluded, after that
That's strange that you wouldn't know, being, running. I mean, for the type of seats that you were running for, that has
yes,
a national sphere of influence.
yes,
Somebody like you should be aware of what is going on within your party.
yes. So again, I would not fault. This ignorance is not an excuse.
An excuse, yeah.
At that point in time, I was busy running around trying to get my form signed, trying to get my forms submitted. Trying to do all the documentation and all whatnot. And for a fact, the party made provisions for ward congresses. Um, I am sure that somebody within my team was actually present at the World Congress, or was aware, of that. But again, uh, and I'm trying not to indict anybody here. I take full responsibility for probably my ignorance as to how that process went. But at the end of the day, all candidates or all aspirants were supplied with a list of delegates, that the party have that were elected at the World Congress. So elected or selected, whichever one, or
Yeah.
interchangeable. So on getting that list, of course, naturally, that is the point in which you begin to go after these delegates to go and present your case. So you're looking at 100 people spread over an area 3 times the size of Lagos State, in various hamlets, villages, and all whatnot. So we spent a good 48, 72 hours, no night, no day, sitting with delegates, presenting our credentials and manifesto, if you may, and asking for their votes, to be able to represent them, at the general elections and subsequently at the House of Representatives. So it was quite an interesting and tedious process. Of course, there was a lot that happened before we got to this point, but then, after that, a date was fixed for the election. We got there, and the elections happened, and the winners won, the losers lost. And here we are.
Winners won, losers lost.
Yeah.
But from all that you have said so far,
Yes.
My own opinion,
Yes.
it seems like it's the people that have lost. So, and I will say, and I'll explain why.
Okay.
Now, that process, of selecting the delegates or electing delegates, and then
Yes.
the candidates now come and start pitching to them,
Yes.
seems to be a bit lopsided, because in the first place, if somebody like yourself, who is a party member, is not aware that an election is going on at the ward level,
Yes.
how are people supposed to vote for the delegates in those parties, because that means that there was not enough information being disseminated within the party structure.
Okay.
Since, from my understanding of what you have said, it
Mm.
is party members that will vote
For
for
the
the delegates
yeah.
to appoint delegates, and
Yes.
then the candidates now have to campaign to
Yes.
the delegates for the
Yeah.
delegates to nominate
Mm.
them or vote
Yeah.
for them
Yeah.
at the Congress. Now, the people do not have adequate representation if people are not aware that these type of things are going on within parties.
Yes.
Right? You
To
understand
get
what
the
I'm saying?
nomination.
To get to know, so that's what I
Yes. So
said
I lost
from
you.
what you have said.
Yeah, I
It's the
lost you
people
for a
that seem to
minute.
have lost. Okay, sorry. So I was
Yeah.
saying that because there's not enough information dissemination,
Mm.
where people are not aware,
Mm.
of what is going on within the
Yes.
party,
Yes.
then that means that people don't get the type of representation that they deserve at the end of the day.
So let me come in here again. Um, Information in political cycles, right, passes through a completely different medium that you and I are aware of. Because we find ourselves within certain cycles in the society whereby we expect that any information that's going out should probably come to us by virtue of a text message, a WhatsApp message, a post on a forum,
Yeah.
maybe on some notice board and whatever. And even though maybe some of these things were done, there's the most likely scenario was that this information will probably have been passed to the from the party headquarters to the state chairman, to the local government chairman, to the ward chairman, and probably maybe on some obscure notice board in the party office. So I feel if there is one thing that needs to be corrected within our party is the dissemination of information. I feel that if information flows freely through mediums that us new politicians, are used to, I'm sure that we would have more actively participated in that.
Yes.
At the same time, just as I said, ignorance is not an excuse. I'm sure if I decide to run another time, I am almost positive that this information will get to me now that I understand the channels in which information goes out within the system. At the same time, the new electoral law has time timestamps, or should I say time bound, time bound specific actions that need to be taken at certain times. So
Yeah.
that could also be an issue with the new with the delegate system, whereby before the extension, all parties were supposed to have concluded primaries on the 3rd of June,
Yeah.
and submitted names to INEC, or submitted names to INEC by a week later. So that was, eventually moved. But then when you look at the time, the time period where parties were supposed to hold primaries and subsequently send, the names of the aspirants or candidates to INEC, it was quite short, and a lot of things were cramped, into this. If we had a longer period, say, okay, we had a few months,
Mm-hmm.
after purchase of forms, submission of forms, I think virtually we had a week or 2 weeks to buy, fill, and return our forms, and then probably another week before the World Congresses happened, and then a few days after, before the primary started. So I think because of the electoral law, and the time specific nature of actions that needed to be taken, that made the period quite tight for all of that.
Now, for a lot of people, they look at
Yeah.
political cycles in Nigeria, and they look at it as a period of chop chop, because there's a lot of money. There's a lot of money that exchanges hands.
Yes.
Now, I will take this question from two angles. The first
Oh.
is, do you think money plays a large role in the selection or election of delegates in the first place?
Mm. Okay. So that's okay. So I should answer the first question.
Please.
Well, like every other thing in life, and like politics everywhere in the world, money plays a role in various ways. So it's like you want to drive from Kaduna to Abuja now. You have an option of, taking a bus, taking a taxi, chartering a car, or going by air.
Yeah.
So whichever means of transport you use will determine how fast and how safe you get there. But naturally, each and every one of these modes of transport has a cost associated to it.
True.
So you require money to do politics in Nigeria, mainly to for logistics. Let me use that as the number one example. So
Yeah.
my constituency is probably about 600 kilometers and 7 hours drive from where I am fully based, right? If I decide to, or I decided to move to my constituency for the period of this election, I was blessed. I have a home there, so it's not an issue. But assuming I didn't have a home there, it would cost me money to live there
Yeah.
while this was going on. Of course, I needed logistics in terms of transportation. Wherever I was going to go and meet with delegates, I had to find my way there. You would require, naturally, politics. You have to be secure. You'd require, some form of security. You would require some form of supporters. And then
Mhm.
traditionally in the African culture, when you are going to visit someone, you just don't go there with
Empty-handed.
empty hands. So you may, of course, make arrangement for some light refreshments, and thank you for I have come. And then I was watching, I think on channels yesterday, when a presidential aspirant for one of the parties was being asked whether he gave money to delegates, and he said, well, he gave them money for logistics, for transportation to come from their villages to where the election was going to hold, gave them money to eat lunch, so it's you actually do need money for politics, for logistics. You need money to be out there. You need
Mhm.
money to be on social media. You need money to be on traditional media, and so many other things. So really, money does play a role in Nigerian politics. A poor man cannot wake up from my village now and say he wants to be president. Where does he get 100 million?
Hello. Hello. Okay. I think the normal thing in Nigeria has happened again. Are you
Yes,
back?
yes, it has. It has.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
So Nigeria network, is either you're dealing with, electricity, or you're dealing with the internet or water. There's
hmm.
always something.
I
But
think
hey,
in this case, I think I have a few people trying to get to me on the phone, and that's the internet connection I'm using. So I wouldn't
all
entirely blame the networks.
right. Well, Nigeria, we have seen that, there are quite a few things that people do. They don't understand that
Yes,
it's those actions that actually bring about some certain reactions. So in your own
exactly.
case, you have actually admitted to us that your phone is, device you're using, that is why. So
Yes,
we should not, keep taking digs at the
yes,
networks. All right.
yes. We
So,
shouldn't. We shouldn't.
right. So, Mark, you have been talking, and
Yes,
from most of what I've gathered,
yes.
you're a very patriotic Nigerian. Yeah,
I
there's
am.
nothing that you have said so far that
Yes.
has been a case of you blaming either the system, blaming people, or blaming anything for anything going wrong or for things
Yes.
not going your way.
Yes.
We're going to take a short break right now. And when we come back, we're going to be
Yes.
talking about that level of patriotism, what's driving it, and
Hmm.
what hopes you actually have for Nigeria in terms of Nigeria becoming the type of country that we all hope that it will eventually become.
All right.
We'll be right back shortly after this.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening. If you're just joining us, you're welcome to another edition of Just Banter. Tonight, we're talking about Nigeria, the elections in 2023, and we have a cerebral gentleman here who contested for a seat within his party, that is, at least to become the flag bearer of his party to represent his constituency at the Federal House of Representatives, representing the federal constituency from Bauchi State. Now, his name is Mohammed Aliko Mohammed. Mohammed, thank you very much once again for coming on.
You're most welcome.
Before we went on the short break, I made mention of something that I noticed in terms of your manner of speech all through the first half of this chat. Yeah. And what I noticed was your level of patriotism, so to speak. A lot of people have lost hope, so to speak, in Nigeria. A lot of people have gone through a lot of trauma in terms of attempting to try to do the right thing. Now, in an environment where so many people, are not doing the right thing, you that are doing the right thing seem to be the person doing the wrong thing.
Exactly.
It is going to a point where a large population of young people want to leave the country. Some of them have left so far. Even some people who are middle-aged, even if they're still in Nigeria, they moved out their families.
Yes.
But you have been talking about issues from a very objective position. What is informing that position?
Well, I think the truth of the matter is that nobody is going to fix Nigeria other than us. We are at a stage in our lives that we can either make or mar this country. One of the main reasons why I decided to throw my hat in the ring, is because I believe that I could offer more than whoever was representing my federal constituency right now. Yeah. This was my belief. And even if I don't get there, which I haven't gotten there now, I will change the dynamics. So my participation right now, my participation in the last exercise now to seek for this seat of the House of Representatives has upped the ante. It's not every Tom, Dick, and Harry today that is going to come out and contest for that seat, because I have lifted the standard. That is number one. Number two, whoever eventually wins, knows that he has me in his rear mirror. So I am going to hold that person accountable. And this is another mistake that we have done from 1999 till now. We elect people, we send them to offices and wait for them to come back in 4 years and come and beg us for votes again. In everything there's monitoring and evaluation, right? There are provisions in the law that allow for constituents to call back their elected members. We
Oh
haven't,
yeah.
with the exception of when that was attempted on Waku a while ago, I think the former senator, nobody has attempted that,
No, they attempted it with Dino Melaya as well, I believe.
Oh yes, they did. Okay, that's true. They
Yeah.
attempted it with Dino, and I'm sure that if Dino Melaya gets to that seat again, he knows better, that he knows that he must do the right thing. So we have to hold our elected officials accountable. For every of these 7 offices that you mentioned at the beginning of the program, the councillor, the local government chairman, the member of the state assembly, the member House of Representatives, the senator, the governor, and the president are all there by the grace of God with our votes. So
Yeah.
we have to hold them accountable. How many people within the governed space have ever taken up a piece of paper and written to their elected official to complain or commend them about something that they have done? You know, if you're sitting down in your office in Abuja as a federal representative and you get 500 letters from your constituents telling you that you shouldn't wear the same red cap that you're wearing every time you go to the House of Representatives or to the National Assembly, you will remove that cap and wear a black one. So we have to hold our elected officials accountable.
But there's a huge communication gap between the electorate
Yes,
and the elected.
there is,
For a lot,
believe me.
for a lot of them. So we've
Yes,
heard, like I said, we've had different types of politicians, we've had different types of individuals come up on
yes.
the show to have a chat. And
Mm,
quite a few of them have mentioned how some people are in office, they've been elected either to be House of Assembly members, House of
mm.
Representative members, or National Assembly members, and they don't have constituency offices in their constituent.
And that's a legal requirement. In fact, what I campaigned on, up until the point that I lost the primaries, every time I met with party officials, with party members, and anybody that cared to listen, I told them that I'm not coming with anything new. I am coming to do what is required of a member of the House of Representatives. So if the law requires me to have constituency offices, 2
Mhm.
in each local government, I will have 2 in each local government. If I am being paid to have 6 staff per office, then I will employ 6 staff. I am not going to cut their salary. What the National Assembly gives me to give my staff at the constituency office is what I'm going to pay them. You know, if I am mandated to come back to my constituency and spend X amount of days, of which the National Assembly will pay you for going to your constituency for that, then you should do that. And if every member out of the 360 members in the House of Representatives and the 109 senators do that, imagine, the multiplier effects
Mhm.
that financially that will have. That is number one. Number two, imagine how the feedback from the grassroots. So if you are asked to go on constituency recess or whatever it is that it's called for 30 days, and in those 30 days you're sitting within your constituency and you're not hiding in some hotel room or hiding away from your constituents, and you interact with them, even if it's for an hour a day, how many people will you interact? You will know the problems of your people, and you will go back to the National Assembly and legislate or take actions that will benefit them. Another simple example that I gave during my campaigns is that for every budget that is passed in Nigeria, it has to pass through the National Assembly. Each and every member is given a copy of that budget.
Yes.
That budget includes everything that is going to be expended, in Nigeria within the 365 days. If you take out, you have graduates in your constituency, employ 50, 100 on an ad hoc basis, give them one page, let them go through it and give you a brief. And at the end of the day, you see that the erosion issue that you have in your local government has not been addressed. The federal government road that passes through your constituency has not been addressed. But if you just pick it up, you keep it somewhere, after 2 weeks, you come back, you sign and you vote, and then tomorrow you start blaming federal government, it doesn't work. You were not elected to go and stay in the Hilton or stay in Sheraton or stay in some obscure hotel and be doing things. No, you were elected to go and represent your people, and that is what we need, representation.
Yeah, but when, like we said earlier on, the foundation is faulty in the first place. How do these people, get to do the jobs that they are meant to do? They can't do those jobs because that's not what they went there for. These are opportunists who have grabbed an opportunity, right? So
Yes.
I'll give you an example.
Mm.
Incidentally, we had somebody from Bauchi State who ran for
Yes.
Senate,
Yes.
and same party, same everything, same structure, same everything. And he had quite a few things to say about the APC
Yes.
in terms of the internal democracy, in terms
Yes.
of the person that got preference over him,
Mm.
even though he won clearly,
Yes.
he, according to him, even though he
Well,
won clearly, the party
yes.
primaries to
Yes.
represent, Bauchi State at the Senate.
Yes.
But somebody who contested against his father
Mm.
in the Fourth Republic is the
Yes.
person that is actually being given
The priority
the
or
priority
given the
over him.
ticket.
And
Okay.
to
So.
now, for the twist, for the actual
Mm.
twist, because it
Yes.
was very interesting. I'm going to
Yes.
put a link. I'm going to put a link to that particular interview
Yes.
in the description for this when we air this
Mm.
this interview, so that
Mm.
anybody that's listening to this can also watch it, because it seemed like a movie to me.
Mm.
The person that he was contesting against, when he
Yes.
went into court,
Mm.
to go and challenge the fact that somebody else was given the mandate as opposed to
Mm.
himself.
Mm.
The person's wife was the president of the appeal court.
Mm.
And that seemed rather interesting.
Okay. And I presume this was in 2019.
That's 2019, for 2019
Okay. So,
elections.
so Habib, I want to say something about our political process. And
Yes.
I've been a keen follower of politics from 1999 till now. In fact, from 1992 till now, and our political space has evolved. Provisions are being made to check some of these things. This is my first time participating, and I recall during our primaries there was representation from the DSS, from the police. There was even an independent observer. INEC was there. And party officials. And at any point in time that I raised my hand to give an objection to something that was going on, I was giving the time, and the audience to speak, make my point, and we only moved forward when I was satisfied, and so also were the rest of my aspirants. Recall what happened in Zamfara State in 2019, whereby there was an issue with their primaries.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, our party, the All Progressives Congress, lost out on every elected seat, because the whole of the primaries were cancelled, by the
Yeah.
courts. So sometimes I am an optimist, I actually see the dough and not the hole in the donut.
Okay.
I believe that if everybody does what is right, if everybody does what's right. For example, now, yes, I was beaten fair and square, and I'll put that in quotes, right?
Okay.
Because there was nothing to show during that process of election that I won.
Yes. All
There
right.
was nothing to show, you know. Maybe if you go in the background and say, oh, okay, what happened yesterday affected whatever happened, during the elections, that's a completely different case. But then at the venue, what happened, I lost fair and square, and I agree with that and I accept that. You know, if I had any proof that was beyond reasonable doubt that there was some manipulation, believe me, I would have been in court by now. you know my resolution has been, since this has happened, I am a party man, I'm a member of the party, and I will support the party to victory. Now, is the system perfect? No. How do you correct a system? By being in it. I could
Hmm.
have decided after the loss of my election to just take off my regalia, put on my jeans, t-shirt, and go about life and forget about it. I've lost. But I am determined to participate to ensure that as a participant, I I correct the system so that it is much better than how I met it. Without a doubt, there are things that happen that are subpar, when it comes to elections in Nigeria. There are a
Yeah.
lot of things that happen. There are things that people say, monies exchange hands. People say, votes are manipulated, here and there. But the system is evolving. Believe me, the convention that happened in 1999 in Jos was by far less transparent for the PDP now, was by far less transparent than the convention that took place a few weeks ago in Abuja. So we have evolved. The system is evolving, and we have to participate. We will not continue to be spectators on the sidelines, sideline coaches, or sitting in the sitting room and insulting the coach that he didn't play this or he didn't play that. No, we have to participate to correct the system. And the more of us that participate, then we will one day gain a critical mass to be able to change things. Yesterday, the Speaker of the House of Representatives was complaining about the fact that 178 members of the House of Representatives did not win their primaries, and he blamed that on the delegate system. And he said that the reason why they were advocating for the direct primaries, was to avoid things like this. But let's call a spade a spade. The 178 members that probably lost their seats did not do what was right. If you are a member and you were doing what was right, what you were supposed to do, your constituents or your party will not turn its back against you. So
True.
there are issues. So there's an adage in Hausa that says, that if the rat is a thief, then Dawa too has a pungent smell. So there are two sides to every coin.
That's a very interesting perspective, especially
Yes,
coming from the Speaker of the House of Reps. We
yes,
keep seeing over and over again where people who are in positions of responsibility make
yes,
some statements that could be deemed to be irresponsible. You evolved through the delegates system.
yes,
You were able to hold your ground. You have been
yes,
in, the House of Representatives forever. She's been there. I can't
yes.
remember since 2003 or
I think
1999.
I think 99. No,
Since 19,
2003.
since
I think
2003. That's
2000.
when the speaker
Yes,
has been there. And
yes,
it is this system that has kept working for him over and over and over and over again.
exactly.
Now, I have never been a big fan of the
Mm,
speaker, but he represents my constituency in Lagos.
beautiful.
And I went to my family house in Lagos a couple of months ago,
Mm,
and I was there till nightfall, which
mm,
usually I've never. I just go
yes,
during the day, do my business, and I leave. But this
mm,
particular time, I was there, and I noticed that there were street lights on everywhere.
yes,
A road that, for
mm,
as far as I can remember, probably maybe 25 years, had not been
mm,
done. It was a major,
mm,
it was a major trunk road, that
yes,
connected so many different parts of that locality.
mm,
Was actually done. So I started asking questions, and they said it was the speaker who
mm,
did those as
mm,
constituency projects.
exactly.
I mean, they even erected the street lights in my house,
Mm, yes,
and I was like, who gave permission for this? And they said,
mm, mm,
my brother, because it's a bit difficult to reach me, at the moment's notice.
mm,
So they can reach my brother much faster. And my brother would only do what he thinks that I would agree to. Anyways, so my
yes,
brother gave them the permission to go ahead, for them to erect it.
mm,
So I was like, really? A street light. Now they were
mm,
all solar powered and all of that.
yes,
So ordinarily I should be praising him and still
mm,
saying that, this guy is doing a good job and all of that.
mm,
But we all know better because, in the first place, how constitutional is a constituency project? Is that the job of the members of the House of Representatives? So
uh,
I would not say because a good man is doing a bad thing,
mm,
or a bad man is doing a good thing,
Yes.
then I'll now give that thing a different name entirely.
Mm.
We need local governments to work effectively because these were the responsibilities of the local governments.
Yes.
Local governments, we don't even know who the chairman of the local governments are. We don't even know who the councillors are. So we don't even know who to talk to when it comes to the issue of getting them to take responsibility for what they do. So now, if you have benefited from a system to a point where you're now able to use that position to actually do something good, should you also be criticizing that system?
Well,
How can you benefit so much from it, and then you now come out and say that you are surprised or you are shocked that 170 something plus
yeah,
members
could not
of
make. I've also found that a bit off, but I'm sure as a professional and as a lawyer and as a speaker of the House of Representatives, he must have weighed, whatever he needed to weigh before making that statement. But let me just come back to what you had mentioned, and also hold you guilty of what all of us are guilty of. You said you don't know your councillor, you don't know your local
oh yeah.
government chairman, whose responsibility it is. And again, I come back to that issue of communication. Sitting down in Kaduna now, being a resident of Bauchi, I knew when Lagos state government held their local government elections.
Oh wow, okay.
So yeah, so no, I'm just giving you an example. I know sitting down here, it comes in a small snippet in the news that, oh, Jigawa State just had their local government elections or is having their. So I think it is the responsibility of people like you that have forum like this, and any other person, that has the constituents' ears to spread these things around. I recall that some years ago, when you go to INEC website, you'd see the names of all elected officials, their phone. I think it was on the National Assembly website, where you have federal constituencies, the representative, their phone number, their email address, and other things. We need to share more information with our constituents, to know, because really, your counselor is the closest person to you.
It's true.
I have been writing my member of the House of Representatives letters, I think since as far back as 2003. Whenever I hear about something, I'll write to them. I've never received a reply till now, or even an acknowledgement, but I still keep writing. Now that I have some of their phone numbers and their text message and their WhatsApp numbers, I do send them WhatsApps and text messages, like that. If we had more like me, they would not ignore us, But then also coming to the issue of constituency projects that you mentioned, my people have a phrase for it. They call it Roman democracy, as in it's the soup of democracy, the benefits of democracy.
Yeah.
Today, your family house is lit, and the road going to your family house is motorable, because somebody, so the wrong person did the right thing, or the right person did the wrong thing, or whatever. I think there's a need in Nigeria today to give to Caesar what is Caesar's, give the responsibility of the local governments to the local governments, and then let them take, both the plus and the minus that comes from being autonomous. I'd share an article with you that I wrote years ago about Mayor Bloomberg, and Rudy Giuliani, who
Yes.
came to the limelight because they were mayors of New York.
Yes.
As you rightly pointed out at the beginning of this, a mayor is a local government chairman. How many local government chairmen in Nigeria can be on the world stage?
How many?
So
Like I said earlier, how many people know them? Because
exactly,
they are under the shadows of the state governments.
they're under the shadows, and until
Okay, maybe Mohammed.
and participate.
Yeah. Go
Okay,
ahead.
Am I back with you now? Okay, yes.
Yes,
I
you're
said
back.
until such a time when there is active participation in politics. And what is active participation? I'll give you another example. In 2019, some famous musician in Lagos contested for public office. You know, he didn't get the seat at the time, but he really got a lot of people interested in politics. I heard this time around, he's won the primaries for his electorate. And that kind of person, it's expected that with the support that he has had from, the general populace, he will do what is right.
Yeah.
So we need to participation. You can't just sit down, we're sitting down on the sidelines and we're commenting and nothing will change.
Oh, yes, true.
Nothing will change. I believe that come 2027, right? My running for public office would have influenced a number of my friends, a number of my acquaintances to now say, since this person tried it and he came out with a positive outlook to it, maybe I can also try it. Believe me, I'm a Fulani man, so I'm very good at hiding my feelings. Of course, nobody wants to go into a race and come out, as a loser.
Correct.
But in everything you do, it's one of three things: you either win, lose, or you gain the experience. I have gained the experience. I'm turning that into an asset. Should I decide to contest again, then I am armed,
Right.
with more experience, to do better. And of course some parties even have a policy that whenever you come to contest the first time, you shouldn't make it because people have been working for the party. Why should you come from nowhere and come and cross over? So there are all of these unwritten rules, they're unsaid, there's nothing
Yeah.
anybody can prove. But it's like and I don't want to give, it's like a local football setting. You go to where in your locality where everybody comes to play football, you find out that the younger ones are in one corner playing their own. The main
Correct.
field is for the bigger boys, and the person that owns the ball, when he comes, can play on any field that he wants.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know so so
He
so
determines what
ex-
games are played.
exactly. So unless we are able to empower everybody to get their own ball, or widen the field, all
Hmm.
of this. But we can't do that from the outside. I can tell you that this whole process for me has been ongoing for the last 3 years or 2 years. Because there were processes. Okay, I decided, okay, I should give it a shot in 2023. What do I need to do? I'm a registered voter in Kaduna. I'm not registered in my federal constituency. So the first step was to go to INEC and find out how I could move my registration from Kaduna to my constituency. It was so easy because I found out that they were doing that online. I did that from the comfort of my home on my computer. A few months later, I got a notification that my polling unit has now been moved, or my election location has now been moved from Kaduna to Misau. I went there, went to the INEC office again, to verify, and they gave me a slip saying that you are now a registered voter in XYZ polling unit. Then what was my next line of action? I went to the party. The party was doing a party registration. And I went and found out, oh, who is the ward party chairman? Ironically, it was someone who I was related to. Went to meet him at home and say, oh, look, I want to join your party. How do I go about it? Say, okay, you need a passport photograph, a copy of your ID card, and come and meet me in the party office tomorrow. And I did. I went there. They gave me a small slip, filled my name into the register, I fixed my photograph, and I was a party member. And then of course I started getting information from the party. When I could attend meetings. I paid off my party dues, and I started consultations even before declaring that I was going to run for office. I started researching how large was my federal constituency, how many wards were in there, where are these wards located, who are the ward chairmen, who are the movers and shakers, who are the players, what do they need, and that whole research took me close to a year, before I now got to the point of, coming out to say, okay, telling party elders that, okay, or the party members that, I want to contest for this seat. you know, and of course, naturally, everybody would give you his advice, you know, tell you how to go. And I'm sure I must have sat with 300-400 people, you know, on a one-on-one basis who were party members to now seek their opinion, you know, and all whatnot. And when I started this thing, you know, I knew what people said, you know, everybody, oh, this one can't go any, oh, this one has come from the village, he wants to take small milk, you know, all sorts of things.
All
But
sorts
I
of
remained,
derogatory statements coming.
yes, you know, and I remained resilient, you know, and kept on going, you know, on and on and on. And then, of course, we had to fundraising was also another issue. You know, Nigerian politics is expensive. You know, wherever you go to visit people, naturally, you know, you would have to make provisions for light refreshments. They come to you. You have to make provision for light refreshments. You have to make sure that they're transported to and from, you know. And then, of course, because you are now a public figure, every responsibility that is yours and the one that's not yours comes to you. So my wife is pregnant, you know, I need to take her to the hospital. Naturally, you're supposed to chip in. You know, my child is supposed to go back to school, I haven't paid school fees, you're supposed to chip in, you know. And it goes on and on and on and on, you know, till the point that the party says, oh, this is how much we're selling our form, you know, and you have to go and buy that form. And then after buying the form, you have to bring it back to your constituency. In our own case, we had to look for 90 party members, you know, to sign off to confirm that we are, you know, we are bona fide members and we're fit to contest. And interacting with 90 people, 90, yes,
Wait,
you know,
so let me ask you a question.
yes.
How much did you pay for the form?
I paid 9 million naira for the form and 1 million naira for the expression of interest form.
So
So
you
that,
first go through the rigors of coming up with 10 million,
yes, 10
and
million.
then
Yes,
you now have to go after 90 people to have a
yes,
sit down and try to get
yes,
their consent to sign
yes,
on for you to
ye-
contest to
yes.
get the party ticket,
No,
not to win an election.
no, to be able to participate in the primaries. Then, of
Primaries.
course, after that, you take back the form and then you have to go through the screening process. And I think there were over 1,000 of us members of the House of Representatives, aspirants, that met up in a hotel in Abuja. And for 48 hours, you know, we're being screened, you know. So that's another, in fact, and then, of course, my constituency to Abuja is a good 800 kilometers. You know, so I had to come buy the form, take it back, fill that form, bring it back, go back, come back for screening, you know, and all of that. So these are where these are the issues that, you know, money has to come in. You can't you don't have a house in Abuja, you have to sleep in a hotel, right? You have to fuel your car to get there, you know, and you're going to go and are you going to go to 90 people's houses, you know, to say, come and sign my form? Probably you go to the party office or tell the party chairman, please, I want 45 people to come and sign my form. Can you invite them? Oh, okay, we have to notify. Even if it's text messages, that costs money, you know. On getting there, of course, you not just bring 45 people and sit them down without giving them something to drink, you know, or without facilitating for them to come and go, you know. So it's really, and this is for me on my own little level of two local governments. Whoever wants to contest for president has to go around 774 local governments, 36 states plus Abuja, you know.
To do that
You're
same
going,
thing.
yes, more or less, you know. I think for the presidency it was 370 signatures, you know, from I think that comes down to 10 people per state, you know, plus 10 from the federal capital, you know. So and at that level, you know, yeah, you go to, let's assume you're going to Kano to find 10 people, you know, from Abuja. That means you probably have to charter a private jet, you know, fly to Kano, and then you're not going to keep them in party office. You probably call them to a big hotel where they will charge you 1 million naira for taking their hall, you know, and all of that. So that is where money comes into politics, really, you know. And it's a very interesting system, you know. I think maybe in the future, what would be ideal is for the party to sometimes foot some of these costs, so party could house all delegates at a certain location, and it is just for the candidate or the aspirant to go there, at their own costs, to meet with these people and get them to sign and other things. But it's quite a complicated process.
All these monies are paid by
Yes,
this aspirants.
yes.
What does the party do with the monies?
Well, I am not a party member. Yeah, no, sorry, I'm a party member. I'm not a party official. Um, what I believe is just I look at the party like your own, social cultural organization, your own alumni association, whereby members pay dues and pay monies for various services, and that is used to plow back into the development of the association. I believe that all of these monies that are being paid or have been paid by, aspirants, party members, goes to the party to develop the party. So I believe, and I think I've heard or read somewhere that, after each candidate of the party will get some, some campaign support money from the party. So it's just a way of fundraising. We pay 10 million to buy our ticket and our form, the expression of interest and the nomination form. And, four of us from my federal constituency, so that's 40 million, right? The party printed those forms, they rented a place for us to do our screening.
Okay, Mohammed seems to have had another call coming
They're
in.
paying logistics for the people going to come back. Am I back?
Yes, you're back.
Okay, yeah, to go and conduct these, primaries, and all whatnot. And at the end of the day, if the party decides to say, okay, every winner of the House of Representatives ticket, will get, let's say, 20 million naira to aid in their campaign, from the party, then I think it is not a bad thing, because before now, tickets were much cheaper. I think, selling the nomination form is a way of streamlining. Imagine if the nomination form was 50,000 naira. I'm sure there would have been 200 of us, contesting for the same seat. That would have been a logistical nightmare, But and these monies, again, I'm looking at what is obtainable abroad. I'm looking at the American system whereby candidates, or aspirants actually have some sort of sponsorship, coming from individuals, institutions, associations and all whatnot. So, yes, I put in some of my money. I don't want to say what percentage. I got supported by people that believed, in my aspiration,
Yes.
and at the end of the day, um, I am sure both my finances, in terms of my supporters financially, and my own investment, in this, uh, is not cannot be viewed as a loss, because we have gained the experience. That is number
Yeah.
one, and I say this again. Secondly, we have a seat at the table now, where we have become stakeholders in the party, because there is nothing that will happen within my federal constituency today that will happen without my knowledge and
Okay.
without my input. And I feel that that is the first step towards improving the system, So it may have been expensive to get a seat at the table, but then this is just a beginning. At the end of the day, yes, there will be ways of, I have been approached by, the winner of the primaries. I've been approached by winners of at different levels. So I have members of the three members of the state assembly, that fall under my constituency,
Yeah.
and they have approached me to say, sir, with your showing and your participation in this, we are seeking for your support. The winner of the primaries that we went for, the same federal constituency, has asked that we should come, and work together for the success of the party. The senator, the senatorial candidate that's made up of 6 local governments, 2 of those local governments are ours. He has also reached out to us. The gubernatorial candidate for the state has called on us also to come together, and do that. So it's a system that when you're not in it, you do not see the organization and the perfection in it. But when you get in, you actually see, how it functions and how it works. And if we can just align, the right intentions, then we can change the system. We can improve it. It cannot happen overnight, but we can improve it over time. But
That's
we need to
fantastic.
participate. Yeah.
Well, I'm not a politician, and like I've
Yes.
always said, different
Yeah.
people have to participate in politics from different angles. There are
Yes.
different roles that people can play when it comes to politics. This is the role I can play that I'm already playing. And that
Beautiful.
was what initially led to this at all in the
Mm.
first place. I
Mm.
felt that a lot of people who needed their voices to be heard were not getting an opportunity for their voices to be heard. So
Very
if I could do my little best to try to get
true.
those people to be heard,
Yes.
I will
Yes.
give it a shot. We are still very tiny. We are still trying to grow, but we'll get
Yes.
there
Good.
eventually. Just like you
Correct.
said, the initial responsibility is to participate. When you
Yes.
participate, then you can now start becoming relevant, become a
Yes.
stakeholder, and then
Yes.
eventually, you can now expand your
Yeah.
scope. So
Yeah.
I can totally relate to all that you have said, Mohammed Aliko
Mm.
Mohammed.
Yes.
I want to say a very big thank you for
You're
you
most
taking out the
welcome.
time to join us. We know
You're
you're a
most
very
welcome.
busy man, and we know we are taking more than the 1 hour allotted time.
No problem.
But like we always say, when you're on just banter, you never know where the banter is going to go. So
Agree?
sometimes you
Yes.
just have to roll with it. So we
Yes.
appreciate you taking out the time to join us and
Thank you.
giving us, all this deep insights that you have given us. Nobody has ever told us as much as you have told us so far about
Thank you
internal
so much.
party structures and all
Yes.
of that and what is
Yes.
obtainable. And we are
Mm.
glad that you're also saying things from the perspective of being a true patriot and you
Yes.
being really dedicated to not just the country, but also to the party that you have, decided to join and take
Yes.
part in their activities.
Mm.
Mohammed, we wish you all the best
Thank you so
when it
much.
comes to your political future. And we hope that at some point in time, this
Mm.
2020 elections is still a long time before the
Yes,
election
it is.
itself. So
Yes,
we are
it is.
hoping that at some point we'll be able to have you back on and have another discussion related to another part of this 2023 elections. Thank you so much,
Okay.
Mohammed, for your time. You have a great day.
Thank you so much, and you have a wonderful day as well. Thank you very much.
All right, thank
Bye-bye.
you. Yeah, bye for now.
Bye-bye.
So, Mohammed Aliko Mohammed, I mean, like I said, we haven't heard, any politician give us a deep insight like he has. So this has shown that he's actually gone through the motions. He's gone, to the grassroots. He's participated, he's ran things, and he can understand exactly what it is to run a political campaign. So we want to say a very big thank you. We're going to you all for taking out the time to join us. We hope that you're going to be able to join us again. Hope you will be able to contribute towards the development of Nigeria. We hope you're all getting your PVCs and you're going to participate in this political process. And let's see how Nigerians, both at home and in the diaspora, can help to turn Nigeria around. And like we always say, before we leave just banter, we always give, our social message, which is say no to rape. Make sure that you're part of this campaign. You fight against this issue. It's of epidemic proportions and is affecting so many people's lives without people actually knowing what's going on. So I want to say a big thank you to you guys. You have a great time and see you at the next episode of Just Matter. You have a great evening. Goodbye.